Good morning again. It's Tuesday the 12th. We are halfway between the start of December and Christmas now. Probably should start panicking about sorting those presents out. So, what have we got for day 12? Indonesia. Kayumas. 4 out of 5 strong. Oh, and you know that video on Saturday? There's a bit of an update for you. Bit of a sneaky peek. Right, let's get on with coffee. So here we go. Day 12, coffee 12, slot cars plural 12. So you'll notice I made this Indonesian coffee quite long. I've had Indonesian coffee before. It's usually quite a challenge. It's quite strong. It's fairly gritty and earthy. And this one is no exception. It's a coffee drinker's coffee. You've got to appreciate the finer points of coffee flavours. A bit like when some wine buff goes, oh, try this, it's brilliant. And you get, actually, that tastes like vinegar. I think you have to appreciate wine to appreciate the vinegar. I'm not saying this coffee tastes like vinegar, it doesn't. But it's definitely not one for a casual coffee drinker. Much like these cars, he says, segueing nicely, are not for the casual slot car owner. They are slot it Alfa 155s. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with these cars in that I love this one and I absolutely hate this one. They're different. This one is an earlier design, and slot it are always changing things up. So this chassis design is slightly different. You can't really see it here, but the position of the guide is different relative to the front wheels. The length of the wheelbase is slightly different, not by much, but they are entirely different cars. And I have to say, progress is not always a good thing. I think the earlier one's actually better. They were both pretty diabolical to start with on this track. The guide was pretty much next to useless. I've swapped them both out, as you may have seen in a video at one point, for some standard, not standard, the cut to length yourself slotting plus guides. I've used the old slot it braid still. I might change that at some point, but it's working at the moment. I've done the same on both cars. I've put as much deep and as much length into the guide as I possibly can to try and get these things to stay on the track a bit better. And it has improved them no end. I've also had to add a fair chunk, I can't remember how much off the top of my head, a fair chunk of weight in either side here, just to keep the car down as well. It's more towards the front than the rear. It was, whatever I did, this car was lifting its front end when it was going around sharper corners and trying to de-slot. But I think I've solved it now on this one, and this car is really quite nice and smooth and quiet to drive. And it has an FT Slot Technic chip in it. This one is a pig. I hate it. I mean, the wings come off a load of times and it's just a horrible piece of glue now, and I've not tried to do this very carefully because, like I say, me and this car don't get on. It's better now than it used to be. When I first got it, I just could not get this thing to do a lap properly. In anything more than a crawler's pace, it would just jump out the slot. I have changed the glide, that has helped. I have put a ton of weight in this car and moved it around, and I've tried it in various places. And people say to me, these cars need to be super loose for them to hang round the corners in any way at all. Well, this car is super loose, beyond belief. I've tried it at just about every setting I can, and I cannot make this car go around a track properly. This one, yeah, it's pretty good. This one, the trouble with these cars is, much as I don't like this car, my dad bought me this car So I love it from that point of view. I just wish it ran better. So that one's a bit disappointing. This one's great. This one's a bit disappointing. But it's not as disappointing. Hang on. It's not as disappointing as today's Mrs. Slotard's Christmas joke. It's awful. It just is. What did the elf say at the end of his shift? That's a wrap. It's not good, is it? People are going to start unsubscribing. They really are.